Hey guys, Brian here with Better Chess Training, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing a game from one of my students. I think it was very instructive, and I hope you enjoy it. Hey guys, I wanted to show you a game from one of my students. He played quite well, and he's progressing quite well. He actually, this is from a tournament that he won, an under 1200 tournament, and his rating went up from about uh, 1030 to about 1150 from this one tournament. So I was very proud of him, of course, but a very instructive game. And I'm not going to nitpick on some of the minor. There's a couple places where he could have played a little more precisely, but overall he had a very powerful plan. Played very powerfully. So let's just go right into it here. And starts out with E4. He's playing a white, and his opponent is rated about I think is rated about 1050 as well. So e4, e5, pretty straightforward. Knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4. So playing a standard Italian game, which you'll see at a lot of these scholastic tournaments. Um, Knight to f6, the two knights, and castle. So of course this pawn is not something that you can take because and well, you can take it, but white gets a little bit of initiative from this, I think. For example, knight to c3. Then if he takes c3, and then this queen is going to come in here. This rook's going to come over. So white will have some initiative there. So getting back to the game, opponent instead plays d6, protecting his pawn, and my student plays knight to c3, protecting the e-pawn. Here, bishop g4 is played, pinning this knight, and my student plays d3, protecting the pawn now. Bishop to e7. Looks like black is going to prepare to castle here, and h3, putting the question to the bishop. I thought he's doing fine here. He takes this, and so now white has the two bishops, which can be advantageous at times. Here, not such a big deal, but black castles, and then white plays rook to e1. And here I thought maybe he could have. That's actually okay, but I think maybe here he could have just played bishop to e3 first, and then maybe looked at playing his rook here over to d1, and then maybe push that, something like that. Okay. Um, but again, not nitpicking too much. Okay, after rook to e1, knight to d4 is played. And here he plays queen to d1, which I think is fine. Uh, c6 is played. And here I think he plays bishop to e3. Here black makes a little bit of kind of an inefficient move here. He plays c5, kind of securing this knight, which isn't a horrible move, but he just played c6, a move ahead of time. The other problem here is that he gives white the 5 square, which you'll see is quite important. So when you make these pawn advances, you want to be careful because of these squares that are now exposed. So my student takes advantage here um, with knight to d5, and after this exchange, he has this nice d5 square, and you'll notice that there is no light squared bishop to oppose him, and so this bishop is very nice here. And you'll see now position is not horrible for black. In fact, it's probably about even, but we'll see now that white's better placed pieces and more active pieces are going to be um, helpful. Because if you notice here, this knight is black's only active piece. This bishop is stuck behind his own pawns. It really won't be able to get much activity over here. Um, and so white's going to be able to create an initiative going forward. So rook to b8, protecting the b3 pawn, very logical. And c3, kicking the knight. Okay, so the knight goes back to c6, and of course, my student does not take on c6, which would be a mistake, opening up the file for black. But instead, he now turns his attention to black's king. Here, we're queen to g4, and the threat, the immediate threat, it would be something like bishop to h6. Okay, queen to c8, wanting to exchange queens. And this is a nice instructive move here. White should not exchange. Instead, this backs up here with queen to g6, continuing this pressure. I actually ran this through the engine after I analyzed it a little bit, and the computer does like the exchange, but if you think about it from a human level and just from a psychological level, white's pieces, again, are more active, have an ability to get into the game more powerfully. So I think it was a good strategic decision to keep the queen on. Okay, so G6 is played, trying to stop this queen here. But the problem is, of course, is that now the H6 square is open, which my student takes. By the way, this is the I did show one of his games earlier on this channel a few couple months ago. So this is the same player, and he's doing quite well. Anyways, rook to E8, and then here queen to F3. So just kind of well, actually, he's threatening checkmate in two here with this queen check. So, for example, just to show you, um, if black were to play something like this, then check and mate, okay, or checkmate this. Okay, but of course, his opponent saw this, and his opponent saw this and actually played the only move, knight to d8, acting here. But you can see now that black's pieces are pretty cramped, and they're all playing defensive roles. They're very they can't really do much. So here, I'm not. I like the idea that he has here. He plays b4, trying to open up, and I asked him why he played this, and he said he wanted to open up the c file. But this is a situation where um, not quite sure if he can't really force the c file open. But um, like if his opponent would have played something to the effect of b6 or something like that, then um, and then if we take, then black takes, and now black has an open file. But it's not. I like his idea overall. He's trying to now that he has the king side kind of locked here, where black can't really move any of these. He can't move the knight. He can't move the. Well, he can move the bishop, I suppose. Can't move the rook because it'll get taken, and this pawn is pinned. He is now trying to open things up on the queen side, which I thought was a good idea in general. Okay, so black takes, white takes, and then here black plays queen to c3, trying to get some activity here. And here, my student protecting a little materialistically protecting this b pawn, whereas and I think it's not a bad move at all, and he's in total control of this game. But I really think um, right here he could have just went right ahead with rook e to c1, and then if he takes this b pawn, then rook to c7 right away. And you can see here that um, black now is in a lot of trouble here. And again, just to make, let me just make a move just to show you any arrows here. Of these. If black were to just make a nothing move here, then the threat here is to take. And after this, taking here, then queen to f6 with a mate eventually coming. For example, here, of course, we could just take the rook too, but bishop takes e6, f takes e6, and queen takes e7, and then we're going to be checkmating very soon. Okay, so let's go back to the game. After queen to c3, he did protect the pawn instead, and a5 is played. And here now he does play that rook e to c1, and after queen to a3. Again, I think he can just go ahead and play rook to c7 here. But instead he takes on a5, which again, he's in total control, but slight, I think, an inaccuracy because then this queen comes back to protect c7. However, I think he had this all in mind here. Plays his rook to b2, protecting the pawn, which is also protected by the bishop anyway. And then e5 is played. And now doubling rooks on the c file. So you can see, look at the, just everything is just pointing towards black's king. So he did quite well here. And I like the way that he is building up his attack. He's not trying to force anything. So this is something in our play that we need to watch out for. Okay, queen comes back to a6 here. And I think, again, he could play queen to c7, but he actually has a nice little maneuver with rook to c6. And remember, he cannot take this with the knight because we're going to have that mate in 2. So the queen goes here to a7. And then he plays rook to c6. So the reason why this is, it's a nice combination he makes is because black cannot respond. If he played rook to c6, which I think is winning as well, there's no way, black might be able to find a way to respond, or at least have a move to try to do something about it. But uh, by temporizing this way, gaining some tempos, they say, by attacking the queen, he's able to do that more efficiently. Okay, the queen comes back to a6, and game's just about over. He plays the best move, rook takes e7, and after rook takes e7, queen to f6. Okay, and here the opponent plays rook to e6, which of course leads to queen to g7 mate. But even if he were to play knight to e6, trying to block and protect here, then after bishop takes e6, f takes e6, queen takes e7, mate is coming very soon. Okay, so very impressive game, I think, by my student, and I'm looking forward to seeing his progress in the future. But I thought this was a nice, instructive game, and hope that you thought so as well. A lot of lessons here. For example, building up your attack, taking advantage of weak squares around the king, as well as opening files and opening lines of attack, were all demonstrated in this game. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will a little quicker video today. I wanted to get get this in. It's been kind of a busy week, but and here's my daughter, and they're off this week, which is why I haven't had much time to off from school, so I haven't had as much time to create a video. But in any case, hope you enjoyed this game, and I'll see you next week.